Good morning. Hope you're doing well on this, what are we on? Wednesday update. Hope the week's going good for you. And here in Northern California, still got the fires going. It's one fire's largest fire in California history. Over, I think this morning it was 637,000 acres. So, excuse me, which in chance probably a couple of days, it might be 750,000 acres, which is just, it's hard to comprehend. Now another fire going to the north. Definitely got a smoky air today. Air quality is not that good. Matter of fact, I know some schools are being, excuse me, air quality. But so keep your thoughts going out with all the fires, with the firefighters, the men and women handling these blazes, and for those families that are homes and businesses are in the blazes path. So, and as well as anybody also, we can keep your thoughts and prayers going out to those in Cabal right now. It's been read an article this morning about a troop that was over there. Things could have probably been handled differently, yeah, but we got some tough times in the world right now. So let's kind of shift topics a little bit. This is David Richard Alma with Balancing the Triad Body, Mind, and Spirit. I know I come across a variety of different topics. I mean, I go in several different directions, but they always tie back into the body, mind, spirit, is because we're not just one dimensional. We got to, what I've learned is you got to bring in all these different directions for things to actually work I don't want to say properly, but for the best benefit is to be multidimensional. So this one here is sometimes when we first hear an idea, thought, whatever it could be, we might need times to ponder it before it clicks for us, before it actually makes sense. Now, example of this is yesterday's video. I mentioned when I was going through my life coaching certification, the lesson talked about the idea, because I've always been taught left brain, right brain, left analytical brain, right brain, creative brain, and two separate. Now, to know that we actually use both parts of the brain at the same time, yeah, okay, that's no big deal, but still, there's always been that distinction between the two brains. And to have it say, no, that's no longer true, we really don't believe that's going to go on. Okay, it was kind of a little blown from, it's like, oh, wow. And I shared that in yesterday's video, in which I mentioned sometimes you can hear ideas and they might kind of change your whole perspective. And now, it took me a couple of hours on that thought to process a little bit, start working through it. Is when I went through, I said, okay, I think I might have to change how I do everything in reference to how I view the mind. So I went back in and I got the study guide I've been working on, which I've been telling you about for a while. I went back in the section and realized it, and I was able to have it. This is where I'm referencing for me personally. I had to ponder, kind of marinate a little bit for something to make sense. When I went back into it and looked at my information, it's like, okay, it really wasn't that big of a deal. I just had to switch things perspective a little bit. I had to factor out between, I could still do analytical and creative, but I just had to factor out the left brain and right brain part of it. So it wasn't, in this case, which isn't always there, it wasn't that big of a deal. But how often have you had you learned something? Someone gives you a thought, you happen to hear it over in a conversation, you see a commercial for it, you watch a television show, whatever it may be. There's something new. Someone presents you with an idea. And again, you might have to go through and ponder it. You have to marinate it, let it kind of mull it over. And that could be for a couple hours like it was for me yesterday. A lot of times you might just need a good night's sleep to think on it, because consciously, if you keep forcing yourself consciously, and we've talked about the power of the subconscious mind, which controls everything. Consciously, if you keep thinking about it, you can only go so far. You'll be banging your head sometimes into a wall. But you go to the subconscious do it. That's why sometimes if you realize an answer comes to you when you wake up in the morning after a good night's sleep, because your subconscious has been pondering and dealing with that problem or issue. And I know there's been times before where I've learned something from somebody, taken through a class or something. Yeah, something from somebody from some, yeah, that's real good. You get the idea. But the idea's been there. If one way to configure is maybe the seed's been planted. But it's been several months, quite a bit down the road, where something else happens and it helps me connect the two dots. It's like, oh, now I get what they meant. Now it makes sense to me. I'm sure that's happened to you as well. So there are times where there's an idea that comes up where you might get it. It's like something's intriguing for me. And at least, so that might be actually a good way to put it, is the seed has been planted. And sometimes for that seed to grow, for it to make sense, for it to blossom for you, and for any of us, is to a couple hours, to a good night's sleep, to maybe a couple days, weeks, months, even many months later. something will happen where it helps trigger it, and the idea finally makes sense. So how often has that had to you where something presented to you, and let me go, it ties back into body, mind, spirit, and your health and wellness, is you might present a way about how to take care of your health, a way to eat, a way to meditate, a way to start thinking differently. Now, all those might not make sense to you at the time, but as you start working through, you start going on your journey, you start figuring things out, and something may happen in your experience will go, oh, now it clicks in and makes sense with what you're doing. It was intriguing enough to you to at least you remembered it, but it didn't quite make full sense to you at the time. But through your journey, your experience, your continued learning, then it finally came together and clicked. It's like, okay, now I get it. So always make sure to go through. That's why it's one of the most important things to do is always keep learning. And whether it is through podcast, books, YouTube videos, I got several people I'm subscribed to on YouTube, but only a handful I get notified and I want to watch the videos when they come up because I usually get something beneficial out of it. I get to learn, continue reading, continue growth. Let those ideas sit in, let the seed be planted, and then once ready, spring forth. But make sure, I don't want to say make sure, but spend some time to actually mull it over, make sure it makes sense to you, and understand the intricacies of it. That's going to take a little longer. Go through and do that. So that's what I got for you today is let that time, let you get new ideas, something like that, let it ponder, let it marinate, and then wait for it to make sense. Let me know if that makes sense to you, if that's worked for you, if that's something like in your past, and let me know. So take care and bounce it to you. We'll catch you next time.